That was going everyone. Sorry for Mother SpongeBob. That was the day is July 9th, 2021, and today we're going to forecast the rest of the hurricane season for 2021. And we'll also talk a little bit about Tropical Storm Elsa. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather content. Make sure to like if you like this video. Make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather content. So let's begin by taking a look at the current sea surface temperature anomaly all throughout the Atlantic right now, because it gives a good idea of what to expect and what type of hurricane season we could expect over the next couple weeks. And we're seeing some very good news right now that the sea surface temperatures in the main development region, the region that's synonymous with tropical cyclone development, has sea surface temperatures now below lower than average, which means that there would be less lift in the atmosphere in this scenario if this were to continue on for the rest of the hurricane season, which means that there will be less tropical cyclone development in the main development region, which primarily means that for pretty much for the entire hurricane season, we will see less tropical cyclone formation because even though areas in the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean Sea are currently warmer than average, it won't make up for the fact that the main development region is cooler than average to make it at least an above average hurricane season. So if this were to continue on for the rest of the hurricane season, this will definitely be great news that we would see lower than average sea surface temperatures in the main development region, because there will be a lot less lift and convection in a lot of these low pressure systems to induce more tropical cyclones in this region. However, unfortunately, this isn't expected to last over the next couple months. If we were to take a look at the CFS forecast when it comes to the sea surface temperature anomaly over the next couple months to forecast, if we move on even to the next month, you see that the CFS currently is forecasting warmer than average sea surface temperatures in the main development region, and this even extends to the Gulf of Mexico and just north of the Caribbean Sea. The only region where we see the sea surface temperatures below average is in the Caribbean Sea or just south of Hispaniola and Jamaica, where we do see a patch of below average sea surface temperatures, but this is far from a large area compared to the warmer than average sea surface temperatures all throughout the Atlantic, which gives me the idea that this will likely be a much more active than usual hurricane season, and it's already begun that way. I mean, we saw already 5 tropical cyclones, and we're barely in the month of July, so this could be a long hurricane season, and also we saw a lot of tropical cyclones come off the African coast. And we saw Tropical Storm Elsa form right around this region. So it's quite interesting to see that we're beginning to see tropical cyclone formation this early in the main development regions, such as Elsa, which began off the coast of Africa. And it's as a result of a strong monsoon going on in Africa. And as that monsoon brings that moisture more northward, we should see more development in the main development region, as well as the sea surface temperatures begin to rise. If we were to take a look at the sea surface temperature anomaly for September, it becomes even worse for the main development region, because sea surface temperatures have a higher departure than average from August, and this even extends to the Gulf of Mexico, like I said, the northern Atlantic, and even the Caribbean Sea is starting to get a little bit more warmer than average. As you can see, some patches are starting to filter in just south of Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic. So we're starting to see those temperatures rise all throughout the Atlantic, and they're expected to rise above average. And it's mainly due to the fact that it's going to be a much warmer summer than average all throughout the United States. So the warmer air temperatures should warm up a lot the ocean temperatures all throughout the Atlantic for this year, since we're going to be in a neutral phase. If we were to take a look at the forecast when it comes to the ENSO pattern, the in the Nino 3.4 region, you see that currently, as of June 10th, 2021, the current forecast for the for July is that we're going to be in a neutral phase, which means that a neutral phase is very similar to a La Nina phase. We have seen above average neutral phases. So So I'd expect a more above average hurricane season, along with higher sea surface temperatures with the neutral phase. However, as we head into months of August and September, while the probability of a neutral phase seems the highest, the La Nina, we certainly can't rule out the fact that there could be a La Nina in one of these months because the La Nina phase isn't really that far from happening from, let's say, the neutral phase, where in August we have around a 40% chance of a La Nina phase, while a neutral phase is more towards 60%. And if we move on to September, you see that the chance of a La Nina and a neutral phase are very identical. So it could go either way in September. While it's slightly higher for the neutral phase, it could easily go to a La Nina phase. And La Nina type events, ENSO patterns bring typically the strongest hurricane seasons. If we were to take a look at the influence that a La Nina would do to hurricane season, if you see that there's more hurricanes due to less vertical wind shear and trade winds and less atmospheric stability, and it's as a result of a cooler and drier equatorial region just off the coast of Ecuador, where we see a lot less lift in this area. So it allows hurricanes or tropical cyclones a little bit of breathing room to outflow a lot of the air molecules it rises into the equatorial region. And since there's not a lot of lift in this region, it's less likely that we're going to see strong upper level winds come from this region, as mostly air will be sinking in this region rather than rising and moving into the Atlantic. So as a result, atmospheric stability and less wind shear should be expected during a La Nina phase. And even a neutral phase is very similar to a La Nina phase. While it isn't as strong, I'd say more likely there's less vertical wind shear and less atmospheric stability during an El Nino phase. So that's certainly something to keep in mind when making the forecast for the hurricane season, as both it seems like both the ENSO pattern and sea surface temperatures will both lean on making this hurricane above average for this time of the year. So we certainly need to keep that in mind for this hurricane season. Now, that's all. Those are not the only two things we need to take a look at. We also need to take a look at the analog years for the hurricane season. So pretty much to pretty much tell you, analog year is pretty much when hurricane when is pretty much years that were very similar to this year when it comes to the circumstances. Like for example, this year we're coming off a strong La Nina from last year, which was the reason why we saw the biggest hurricane season of all time last year. And we're gonna compare this year to years that had a strong La Nina the year before and see how those hurricane seasons fare. Look at the above average hurricane season years. My computer is being really slow right now, but hopefully this loads up. Give me just 1 second, bear with me here. So if we were to you see that the current forecast from the University of Colorado is Colorado State University, my bad, is that we're going to see an above average, which is extremely important in determining what type of hurricane season we should expect. Because if we were to take a look at the analog years in history back then, you're going to see that in 1996 we had 13 named storms. In 2001 we had 15 named storms. In 2008 we had around 16 named storms, and a little more. Give me 1 second here, and you see 2017 we had 17 named storms. And while 2017 wasn't known as a crazy hurricane season, you have to remember that 2017 had 6 major hurricanes, and a lot of those hurricanes completely devastated a lot of communities and were one of the worst in world history. I mean, we had Hurricane Maria, which was a $90 billion disaster for Puerto Rico, and we also had Hurricane Harvey in 2017, which was the second most costliest disaster in U.S. history, only behind Katrina. And of course, we had Hurricane Irma, which made landfall in Florida, which was another devastating hurricane. So even though 2017 wasn't huge when it comes to the amount of named storms, the storms that made landfall were completely devastating. And you see all these years, they were above average years because the average amount of named storms is around, I think, 12 or 10. And you see all these storms, all these years were above average. And these were all years after a very strong La Nina. So this is something we need to keep in mind for this hurricane season, that the years that were very similar to this, they were much more active than usual. So that's certainly something we need to keep in mind. And in terms of the CFS's wind shear forecast over the next several months, you're going to see that the CFS is expecting lower than average wind shear for a lot of the really concerning. Taking a look at that, you're going to see that a lot of the main development region is going to be well below average when it comes to wind shear, which is definitely not something we want to see, because a lack of wind shear fuels hurricane development. And if we were to take a look at that month of September, the main development region will be under below average wind shear for the most part, extending just off the coast of Africa into the Caribbean. You see the purples represent lower than average wind shear, and this is all for the active month of the hurricane season, which is certainly concerning. It's certainly something we don't want to see, and all points are right now pointing towards a much more active hurricane season. So even going back to August, you're going to see that while in August the wind shear is primarily average, it'll soon change in September, the most active part, and going into October, you're going to see that that the wind shear becomes even less in the main development region. So this is certainly concerning, and I think there's going to be a much more active hurricane season. So my initial forecast last time I did a hurricane season forecast video was around 1 to 2 months ago. I forecasted 20 named storms, 10 hurricanes, and 4 major hurricanes. I think I might rise that average to maybe 21 named storms, because we already started off much faster than I initially anticipated. So I do expect this hurricane season to be a little bit more active than I initially expected, based off of how fast we already are seeing the named storms. I mean, we already had 5, and it's only the beginning of July, so that's certainly something we need to keep in mind. And you see that from my forecast, I'm expecting the most hyperactive formation to occur just off the coast of Africa, above average storm formation in the Caribbean Sea and the Gulf of Mexico, and it's a little bit more uncertain up northward, but I do expect it to be another quite active hurricane season, so keep that in mind all throughout the Atlantic. But yeah, guys, I guess that's it for this video. I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather content. Make sure to like if you like this video. Make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather content. I hope you guys have a good day.